Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with a video for you guys and gals here to continue my review of Benight and Beguile. Book 7, Chapter 6, A Life Force Returns. In the village on a second night of uncertain and turbulent events, Fatima Braga sat in her parlor in front of a large glass bowl of cool water. She stared into the water, her reflection staring back at her like a mirror, showing her age, and had come and taken away her long dark raven hair many years ago, leaving her as white frozen glass in the dead of winter. Her hair, softly curled just under her shoulders, looked even whiter in the water's reflection. As you hear my dog bark. After shaking off who she saw looking back at her, Fatima reached for another much smaller bowl on the table that had a large white egg. She held the egg carefully in her hand and took a breath. Then she cracked it, being sure that she separated the egg white from the yolk, and dropped the translucent and gooey egg part into the water, creating the Venus glass. The Venus glass, an old ritualistic way fortune tellers would seek answers from the other side, was Fatima's favorite tool. The egg whites would swirl in the water, and whatever image appeared in the glass would tell a future, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but always true. The egg whites floated in the water slowly, taking into a shape that controlled and mixed within itself. Fatima stared, anxiously awaiting what the world beyond what we would see would tell her through the Venus glass. And then there it was. Like the passing of a cloud revealing its secret world in the sky, Fatima gasped and placed her hand in the watery bowl, destroying the horrifying image of a fanged mouth. "O lobo," she whispered to herself, using the Portuguese word for wolf. Tia, a voice said from the hallway. It was Philip. He had come up from the basement. "Philip, son, please come in, come in. I have to tell you what I've seen," Fatima said, neglecting the fact he was still calling her aunt instead of mother. "I have something to tell you, too," he said, slowly walking into the parlor. Fatima could sense in his voice something had happened. She stood up as if she were about to face her biggest enemy in a showdown when Sebastian Lord entered the room directly behind Philip. Fatima gasped and covered her mouth. The fangs in the Venus glass were not a wolf, but showing her Sebastian had arrived. So initially, Fatima misread that, so that's interesting. "What have you done?" she asked her son. "Sebastian is here to help me," Mary said. "He was the one who could. I found him, and now he's here to help." "He's my only way forward," Philip reminded her. "Philip, I want him out of this house. Take him away," she ordered. "I don't mean to harm anyone," Sebastian said in a soft voice. "I just want to help my cousin, Mary, and the mother of my child, Evie. But first, we have to change Philip back. The faster, the better. If Philip changes again before the next full moon, they'll blame the ones on trial for it. We cannot let that happen. Mary told us what you are, Sebasto. She told us everything, and I have absolutely no intention of getting involved with you in this house. If you want to help Philip, then you'll have to do it somewhere else," Fatima said, shocking her son. "Somewhere else? You have nowhere to go. Sebastian is believed dead, and if anyone were to see him, they'd automatically assume he was the monster that haunted on the full moon. But that was me. If you want to truly save me, then you'll allow him to stay. and we can all try to understand Elijah's spell book together once I'm free. We can then help Mary and Evie and Matthew, Philip. Sebastian gulped. Matthew? Yes, Philip replied, and Evie apparently have gotten back together, and they've both been accused of this stupid charge. I see, Sebastian replied. When did he return? Philip's brow lifted, sensing a slight bit of jealousy somewhere between the time you and Jacqueline got together and when I became a wolf that killed several people. Philip's irritation on having to comment on Evie's love life was clear. He knew there was so much more important things than Sebastian to focus on. As the two men talked, Fatima studied Sebastian like she was examining a fine painting. Her eyes looked over him top to bottom. She was transfixed by how human he looked. Skin, hair, eyes. But deep down, her heart and mind united. It was a creature, a thing, a monster, ungodly creation that she needed to snuff out. Her eyes darted to a small desk. The glow of the lamps reflected back to her from sharp objects like a lighthouse beaming to her a sign. She suddenly reached for the object in the desk, the letter opener, and lunged at Sebastian, hoping to plunge it into the man's heart. Philip quickly grabbed hold of her and turned her back around to face him, her white mane of hair splashing over her face, the letter opener tossed to the corner of the room. What? What are you doing? Philip shouted at her. That's not the way we're doing this, he added in a calmer voice, holding her back. Fatima, out of breath, pushed her son's arm apart and released herself from his grip. If you need his blood, I would have gotten you his blood by drawing it from his cursed body. Killing him, Philip asked, flabbergasted. Two birds, one stone. Sebastian's eyes narrowed, his body stiffened. Sister, I understand your fear. I truly do, Sebastian said, slowly walking toward the woman, shocking her by using the name she once used when she was a nun in Lisbon. Diablo, she replied, using the Portuguese word for devil. English, Philip said, holding his mother by her left wrist. I have not been the best person to anyone, not to Evie, not to my child, nor to any of my family members, and certainly not to the people that I have. He paused, killed. You know so much like my other name, yet you don't know how you can save us all by dying, Fatima said coldly. I fully admit my wrong line, Sebastian paused again. Fatima, when I become what I am, I couldn't control myself sometimes. Sometimes there was a rage in me that would overtake me, and he paused a time as if the words he kept trying to muster up would only leave his mouth by force. And you'd kill, she said, staring him dead in the eye. That's what I fear of you, Sebastian. Your deadly side. That's what I see in you. Your deadly grin. It is clear to me that there is still much danger inside of you. I can smell it. I can feel it in your aura. Why should I trust you with my son's life? Sebastian stepped back. You can't. I don't expect you to, but for now you have to believe me when I say that I tried. I did try to hold back, but sometimes I couldn't. The urge was overwhelming. I've tried to curtail it. After Evie was taken to the grave and I pulled her out, I saw that there was no way forward for us. She agreed. That's why we decided I'd be buried away in the caves. I wanted to vanish and free us from all what I was. I didn't choose to come back, but I am, and I'm here now to help. bring me back to life as I am. We're linked forever, Sebastian explained, hoping to calm Fatima's rage toward him. Eliza used me to revive Sebastian, Fatima interjected, without my knowledge. But now that we know he can somehow reverse my affliction using the same life force that is in Sebastian, it's worth a try, he added. We cannot kill him, Tia. He needs to be alive. Fatima narrowed her eyes and stared at Sebastian. The whole time Philip spoke, she did not want to give him a second where he could turn away and hurt them. She stared at him, eyes locked. She felt secure, safe, and so Fatima agreed to, she'd help them attempt to read Eliza's book and transform Philip back to himself. Again, using Sebastian as a life force. Over at Welshport Hope Hospital, Dr. Nicholas Jordan was on a night shift doing rounds when he decided to stop by Ashia Hoffman's room for a quick visit. Ashia had been in a coma since the building she had been held captive and caught fire, and collapsed on her. Her vitals were always good, but her mind had still slipped into the recesses of darkness as the world around her carried on. For his part, Nick awaited her arrival and hoped she could soon shine light on the whereabouts of his half-sibling. She and Light Gregory Rains took from Nick's mother's Aurora's at birth. No one knowing the child was growing up as Mary and Philip adopted child. Right. So Nick pulled over. Nick pulled over a soft chair to sit next to his girlfriend, Ashia. The two doctors had come a long way in the relationship over the past years. She had kept secrets from him before, but knowing she kept the truth about baby Caleb from his family cut deeper. This secret had upended the way he loved her. The love was there, but now it felt almost as if it strained, forced pity in his broke heart. All doctor, a voice said from the hospital. From the door, it was Nurse Danielle Holton. Also on her round, I'll check. I wanted to come back. I'm sure I got that right. Shoot. I wanted to come on her rounds. I'll come back. I just wanted to check on Dr. Hoffman. No, please come in Nick said, their eyes locking. How was your favorite patient this evening? She asked, blushing. Nick sighed from the charts. No real change from this morning. But as usual, I'm hopeful, he said. Are you getting along? Get a feel for the place then? Danielle shrugged somewhat. Yes, it's a smaller hospital than the one I worked in Boston, but it's wonderful being home again. I lived here for a short time before moving to Massachusetts, so this feels like an odd home away from home, she replied. I understand I was born stateside too, but we moved to London when I was only two. My mother is American, British father. America always felt like that to me. I love England. I miss it too, but my connection here felt like a thither. I need to come back someday. Careful what you wish for, I guess. He added, turning to she in her coma. Danielle could see there was sadness in his handsome face, a hurt that was unspoken. She could feel his warmth toward Ashia, but at the same time, had heard rumors of her inability to keep herself out of trouble. The stories of Ashia's own father, a killer who'd been in a mental institution, and her adoption into the prominent Hoffman family, the connection to Gregory, and the strange case against Dr. Kim that Gregory held over her, and now the events of the fire, all of it clearly weighing on Nick and showing on his sad face. Danielle, a natural caregiver, only wanted to make him feel better, but she didn't know how or to begin with the mess she had made. She'll come out of it, doctor. I've seen cases where people lie in decades-long comas and come out of it. I can't assume Dr. Hoffman will be this way, but it will happen soon. Sorry. Decades, huh? Nick chuckled. I don't know if I or we can wait that long. I'm sorry, Danielle replied, putting a hand on his shoulder. He turned to her, his eyes locking again, her face heart-shaped and soft, her eyes a chestnut brown that seemed to catch the light of the room, turning them a deep, warm amber. They were about the same age, and both had trouble in love. His past visible to her, hers still hidden beneath the veil of her beauty. I should get going, she said, clearing up the materials and getting herself up for the next patient. It's a long night shift. It is, he smiled. If you have a break later, would you like to have a quick coffee, tea? I'm here still till midnight, he asked her happy surprise. Sure, I'd love that. How's 8? 8, he confirmed. Danielle smiled, blushed some more, and quickly left Ashia's hospital room, where Nick returned to his seat in front of Ashia. He wondered if she heard any of the conversation, and if she had, was she jealous and angry, locked in her own mind, unable to speak. He felt awful, but not as awful as he felt. Sorry. She should feel for helping kidnap and disappear his half-brother. Wake up, Ashia, wake up, he whispered. Now at the nurse's station, Daniel looked over her schedule. How's Dr. Charming? A fellow nurse giggled. Sorry. Honey, we can all tell he's sweet on you, the other nurse said. A yellow-toothed grin. We can see it. Don't you worry a bit. From all the stories that Hoffman has been up to, he's sure to leave her in the lurch as soon as she opens her pretty little eyes, and with good reason, too. I just come to see my schedule, not to talk about Dr. Jordan and Dr. Hoffman, Danielle replied. Sure, hon, the nurse smirked, then handed her more papers with patience for Danielle to see. As Danielle uncomfortably pushed the nurse's words out of her mind, she saw that down at the bottom of the patient's list was her last patient on her shift, an early morning checkup with Dr. Ward and Caspian Cassidy, Danielle's father, Victor Holton. Danielle felt her blood turn cold. She'd come face to face with the man she thought dead for 3 years. Back at Fatima's home in town, Sebastian, Philip, and Fatima herself sat at round table in her parlor under a circular shaded light that hung from the ceiling directly above the table. The room, painted blood red, was typically where Fatima had her tarot card readings, crystal ball reviews, aurora cleansings, but most of all, seances. Mary's absence was felt here, as neither of the three could read Eliza's book of spells, and on this night Fatima would attempt to contact Eliza Good from beyond the grave in hopes she'd help then read her book. Hold hands, Fatima instructed as she reached for Sebastian's left hand and Philip's right. The two men also linked hands. The book was placed in the center of the table, closed, with three candles surrounding it. Fatima closed her eyes and instructed the two men to do the same. She took a breath and began to take in heavy bursts of air and exhaled the same. She began to hum a song neither of the men recognized, and continued to breathe in deep gulps of air and release it back into the room. Then, in quiet whispers, Fatima began to repeat Eliza's name over and over. She called on the witch from Good Island, the Mother Mary, sister of Sabrina, a member of the covenant known as Highgrove. Sister Eliza, show me the way, show me the answers into which I pray. Come here now, show us this book, show us this page for which we look. Eliza Good, enter the realm, see my and yours, and take this ship by its helm. A light, cold air began to swirl around the three. The candles began to flicker and move by the air coming from the unknown source. I feel her, Sebastian whispered. I can sense her presence. Shh, Fatima bristled. Then the book, brightly lit up by the candles as its side flipped violently open, and the pages began to turn faster and faster, all on their own. And suddenly the book clamped closed, flipping to one side, revealing nothing. The candles then blew out one by one. What have you done? A cold voice said from the entrance of the parlor. The three of the table looked up and saw Jonathan Benight. Jonathan, what are you doing here? Philip asked, jumping up from the table. Jonathan's face was tear-stained, his nose red and swollen from crying. He was horrified by even that he saw everything that he had heard at Lockwood Thicket, and now everything he was witnessing at Fatima's parlor. How did you get in here? Fatima asked, also jumping up from the chair. Everyone just calm down, Sebastian added. I know what you all are. I know what Jacqueline is. I heard everything. I tried to help. I did. I tried to get rid of Sebastian and get him out of this world, but like a cockroach, you've returned. Haven't you? I'll never be rid of you, and I'll never be free of this sick thing you are, Jonathan groaned. Jonathan, you have no reason to hate me the way you do. Don't you see? Everything you've ever been told about me has been ways to wrap my image in your mind. When we met in my son's bedroom, you already had preconceived plots and webs in your mind, and that was not the best way we two new family members should have met. But we can come together and fix one big problem, Sebastian said. Through tormented tears and what he knew and saw, Jonathan asked, what then? One problem was Jacqueline, Sebastian replied. Jonathan's eyes narrowed. You already handled that. Jacqueline's dead. We left her at the thicket bleeding to death. My child is dead because of all of you. Even Jacqueline is to blame, her treachery, her lies, all of it. You're all to blame for all of it, Jonathan replied. It wasn't your child, Sebastian replied. Sebastian stopped, Philip whispered. He has to know. Jonathan stepped forward into the parlor, further in so that he could be seen by the shade lamp hanging from the ceiling. What did you say? Jacqueline was with child. It was not yours. It was my child, Sebastian replied. Fatima crossed herself and sat down at the table, her heart skipping a beat. It was my child. We were in love and married, and she was going to have a baby. You're all lying. You're all using mind control and witchcraft to try to do something to me. You're driving me insane. This is what you want. You want me to go mad so that you can get rid of me, just like Jacob tried to do to you and Evie and David, and any obstacle that comes his way. You're all the same, Jonathan shouted. He's not well, Philip said softly. He's not well at all. Jonathan, please calm down. You have to understand that there are many things that we have to explain, but we cannot do it now. They have to wait until we fix something much more important. Evie is in trouble, and so is Mary. We need to help them first, Sebastian said. Jonathan's rage began to rise. He hated being pushed aside. He hated always being pushed aside. His parents always chose Celeste over him. Albert chose his children with Rebecca over him. Jacob chose others at the publishing house over him. Jacqueline chose Sebastian over him. The patronizing way Sebastian now was trying to push him aside for other issues made him angry. Jonathan's rage boiled over, and he has reached for items that fed him at his table. He pulled them off and then lifted the table and flipped it over. Eliza's book went flying to the floor. The candles flew to one side, flashing hot wax all over Fatima, who screamed and jumped out of her seat. You killed my child, and now I'll kill you. Jonathan screamed, and he lunged at Sebastian, who blocked him by grabbing Jonathan's forearms. Philip reached for Jonathan and behind and pulled him off. The two men fell to the floor, wrestling for power, and in their fight, knocking over the room's tables and chairs. Sebastian reached down and grabbed Jonathan. The vampire's extreme strength lifted the mad Jonathan off of Philip, and he hung in the air by his lapel. Jonathan reached his arm back and dropped his fist into Sebastian's face, forcing Sebastian to release his uncle, and his hands nursed to the blow. The room settled. Jonathan's anger was like an electrical wire that had suddenly weakened. The hurt in the room was now showing. He lost everything he had gained. The embarrassment of falling in love with Jacqueline, who wasn't really in love with him, was all over Jonathan's face. It was as if everyone had known a secret, but no one had told him about it. He felt foolish, like a child. Used. I will never, ever forgive any of you for what you've done to me. None of you. You've taken me and made me into a joke. You've all hid things, lied, and used me over and over again, and left me to find things out for myself. You should all be ashamed for what you've done. You all live to regret all of it, every single thing. Jonathan's mind had been broken. He knew now his wife had lied about her love for him, about the paternity of their child. He knew she wanted to be with Sebastian. She only had used him for security. He knew that nothing was real. It was all fake, and the joke was all on him. Jonathan then spin the direction of Sebastian and Philip. A wad of saliva falling in a clump of disgusting slough on the carpet was Jonathan's final words, and he left. The room was quiet now. With the silence, Fatima looked over at Eliza's book and saw that it had been thrown from the table and opened to the exact pages they need to cure Sebastian. She gasped and quickly tried to understand that code message of the spell that had magically begun to change into legible sentences. I should go after him, Sebastian said. I've known Jonathan for years as a kid, but he moved away. He always been in a search of acceptance. If you went after him in his state, he wouldn't be receptive. He's embarrassed. He's humiliated. And if Jacqueline did die at that cabin, well, I don't know if he'll ever recover. I feel horrible about my part in that, Philip said. It was a horrible mistake. You didn't mean to hurt her. Philip didn't know what else to say. But I should go. I'm afraid of what he'll do or who he'll find and what he'll say is happening here, Sebastian reminded them. He's quite the loose cannon. Leave Jonathan to himself for now, Fatima said, returning to the conversation. Now, with Eliza's open book in hand, we've been given answers to say Philip. The two men turned to Fatima. Look, she said, showing them the open book to the page. The wolf moon curse magically translated to them to understand. Over in the village at the Sirens Call pub, Nathan Kramer sat booth, drowning his stress away with a pint of beer fresh off the table. He had been at work most of the day dealing with Timothy Churchill's obsessive plot to ruin the Lord family once and for all, beginning with turning the town against them with a bizarre accusation of witchcraft using an old law on the town charter from the Puritan days that never got repealed. Nathan helped in this. He has not the most trusted person in the mayor's cabinet. He found the law. He encouraged the call to Barrister Edney Sidney, and he was the one who tilted Sidney's interest in taking the case. But none of it felt good. Nathan, a kind-hearted man who never had an enemy to his name, saw it as an opportunistic reach and knew that it would only end in death and disaster. Spying Nathan in his booth alone, Baxter Murphy walked over from his own booth and sat down facing the mayor's aide, plopping his cold glass of white wine in the table. Nathan's face scrunched, and Baxter's sudden appearance. You're like a vulture, you know that. When someone's on their own in their own world, feeling like death warmed over, you come over and pick apart the carcass. Nathan said. Blue, are you? Well, I can help you fix all that, Baxter said, reaching under the table with his leg, entangling it with Nathan's. Nathan yanked his back. No. Baxter shrugged. You're no fun. The two were no strangers to each other. In fact, they had once had a romantic relationship, one that lasted many years. Soon after Baxter's relationship with Lear, Lockwood ended. Baxter had a way of linking himself to people who had jobs and important connections. He found himself lured to men who worked with scandal-ridden politicians, powerhouse foreign dignitaries, even men with ties to House of Windsor. But none of Baxter's relationships lasted longer than the stories these men supplied from their positions. Baxter, true to his form, used them all. What is it you want, Bax? I don't have anything to tell you, Nathan said, watching the foam in his beer bubble at the edge of the mug. I think you do, Bax replied. I know that you've had meetings with Barrister Sidney. A little birdie told he's arrived and what he was with Churchill today. You're going to really look me in the eye and tell me nothing happened in that meeting. The town's abuzz, Nate. Everything seems to be on the line here. I love a quote. A quote, Nathan asked, with irritated tone. That's right, a quote from me. Baxter looked confused. That's right. Here's a quote, Bax. Go fuck yourself, Nathan replied. Jesus, you used to be able to hold your alcohol a lot better than this, Nathan. You know this is my job. It never ends. The things are always happening, and I have to get to the bottom of it, Baxter replied. You're the one that started all of this. If you'd left well enough alone, none of this would have happened. The three people wouldn't be set for a stupid trial of witchcraft, Nathan said. A trial? There's to be an actual God-fearing real-life witch trial? Right here in little old Welshport? Well, fuck me dry. This may get me a promotion, Baxter gleaned. You're sick, Nathan said. Whole body now drowsy with beer slowly working his way in the bloodstream. Baxter looked at his ex and felt sorry for him. He wanted an exclusive, but didn't want to get it his way. Now, with Nathan struggling to keep his eyes open, how many have you had? Baxter asked, pulling but Nathan's mug. Not enough. Seriously, Nathan, are you all right? It's not like you know that didn't know Churchill was after. I mean, you've been around him long enough to know he's had a out for the Lord since he was a child. It wouldn't take a fortune teller to tell us that he'd try something crazy like this eventually. Baxter replied, I just don't like how I'm part of it. I'm helping the man, Nathan said. I'm helping the man destroy lives, innocent lives. Innocent? We don't know if they're innocent, Baxter said. What, you really think they're witches? Nathan asked, his words slurring more and more. I didn't say they were guilty of witchcraft. I just said we know that they're not innocent. Nathan, you're a big boy now. You should know that no one after the age of 5 is innocent. We all get to be a little bad after that, some of us more than others, Baxter replied. I never liked your cynical side, Nathan replied. Neither did I, a voice said, standing over the two men at the bar. Nathan and Baxter looked up to see Cora Taylor standing before them, who had come in for an evening after work drink with Jane Donnelly, the Lord's head maid. I'll grab us a table, Jane said uncomfortably around Nathan and Baxter. Sis, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while, Baxter said, standing up and trying to hug Sis. Cora replied, recalling her. Baxter told her she wasn't really his sister biologically. Baxter tilted his head and lifted a brow. Oh, come on. Listen, I only come over here because I just didn't want to be awkward if you saw me first. I don't want to embarrass you in front of anyone, especially if they all saw that I'd asked you to leave me alone, which is what I'm doing now. Leave me alone if you see me anywhere in town, Cora said. Caroline Baxter said, pulling her aside to speak more privately. You're my sister no matter what. It really doesn't matter to me who you really are, Baxter. You've been lying to me for 20 years. You've been telling me lies for all my life. And you dropped the truth on me in a way that is so demented and expect me to just be fine with it. With you. I need to be away from you. I don't want to be anywhere near you anymore. You're an agent of chaos. And let you drag me along the way far too long. That's over now. Carolyn turned to find Jane, and she did. Baxter grabbed her shoulder. Caroline, wait, he said. She shrugged him off. Caroline, I have more to tell you, he said. She stopped. She didn't turn. The noise of the bar refilled the smoke room. Music was loud, but she heard him loud and clear. The other shoe was about her real life. Her life as Maggie Lockwood was about to drop. This is what she was afraid of. She knew that Baxter was the type of manipulator who'd only give part of the story. First, who's the rest later, like the slow drip of melting icicle. He's sick. Take on an insurance policy. Of course you do, she said to him. Still with her back turned, the lamp lights on the tables were glowing a rich yellow light just as they were on the bar, and the golden mermaid fixtures on the walls. Cora finally turned and looked up at her adopted brother, whose face was so sharp in features that the bar's lamp lights cast dark shadows over his face. What's that supposed to mean? He asked her. She stepped forward to him and just knew there was something else. There always is. So what is it? Lear has the adoption papers, he said. That's it, she asked. That's all you had to tell me? Lear has the adoption papers, he noted. In those papers, you'll get all the information on how Henry Lockwood brokered your adoption. But just so you know, you may find things in those papers that may hurt other people, Baxter explained. I've always kept them safe because, well, despite popular belief, I don't go after just anyone. I try to protect people that I like too. You'll see what I mean if you get them from Lear, Baxter said. I don't understand. I'm giving you the keys, sis. Once you have all the information on how it all went down, it'll be up to you to handle it. If you want, I'm telling you, when you read them over to see who else was involved, you'll see what I mean. Cora stood there as Baxter reached over and grabbed the wine from the table. With Nathan, he kissed his ex on the cheek and washed him as a good night, then walked past Cora but said nothing to her. their relationship destroyed, with secrets broken open in truth, now that it was in her hands to find out what else would come when it was actually sought out the papers from Lear. Give me 1 minute, guys. Right back. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. While the ruckus sailors, the village patrons, contain the dark night away at the Siren's Call pub, much more somber environment at the makeshift jails at Village Hall were taking shape. Evie lay on her cot, staring at the brick wall, following the lines of crop as if they were imaginary streets going up the wall and to the blank ceiling. Her mind was on her son Gabriel. She missed him. She hadn't seen in well over 3 weeks, and her mother's news on him adjusting fine without her only seeing her into a deeper depression. He was so young, and already they'd been apart so much of his life. All she wanted to do was to be with him and love him and take care of him to the best mother she could be for the child that came into the world under tumultuous circumstances, and those circumstances had yet to cease. Evie felt like her life was a storm that was constantly battering and angering the sea that was little Gabriel. From across the jail cell floor, Matthew could see Evie lost in her thoughts. His heart broke for her. All he wanted to do was protect the woman that had loved, but they were all trapped there together under such a ridiculous pretense as an accusation of witchcraft. You're right over there, Matthew said, sliding his arms through the bars. Mary turned to Evie, who didn't answer him and didn't lift her eyes from the wall. Evie, Mary said softly, "Are you okay?" Evie again did not answer. Slowly stared at the bricks. Mary turned to Matthew. Worry plastered all over her face. She got up from her chair and walked over to her where Evie was laying and sat down next to her. She grabbed her hand and squeezed it, which seemed to bring Evie out of her gaze. "What? I'm sorry, did you say something?" Evie said, taking in a deep breath. She had been holding it the whole time. "Matthew and I were just worried about you," Mary said. "You haven't said much since your mother left." Mary added, "Are you okay?" "What if we die?" Evie suddenly replied, surprising the other two inmates. "We're not going to die. We're going to get out of this, one way or another. There is no way they'll be able to keep us here from such a..." Matthew paused to think of a stupid case. "Matthew's right. They don't have a case against the two of you for anything. They only saw me use my powers. The others, I decided to confess to everything and let the trial be about me. I'll tell everyone that two of you are innocent, and you'll be able to move on with your lives." Mary said. "Mary, no, they'll kill you," Evie replied. "You can't just confess. That wouldn't take a confession now, especially since we've all said we're innocent. And what of Charlotte? What of the boys? They'd certainly come after them, being the children of a witch. They're already on this sick witch hunt to hurt people that won't stop." Mary quickly was reminded of her children, especially Caleb, the son she and Philip adopted, and with recent events now believed was the son taken from Aurora illegally. The kids aren't going to be hurt. You don't really think Churchill would do that, do you, Mary? Come after innocent children? Mary asked. I honestly don't want to chance it, Mary. And you shouldn't either. We don't know what Timothy Churchill's motivation is for anything of this. None of what he's doing to us will gain him votes of any power in such a small town. It really makes no sense. And if I thought that anything I said or did would put Gabriel into danger, I would definitely think twice. So please don't do it. Don't confess to anything, he replied. It's not fair for you two to be here, considering what I am, Mary said. We're in this together now, Matthew said. We'll get out of this together, I promise. How can you promise that, Mary said. Even some realized she was given into her own fears, just as Mary was now. Matthew was right. They had to carry on and fight whatever was coming. None of them could back down from Timothy's accusations. They were only meant to hurt people instead of to protect people. Evie turned her head and looked at the bricks, and again, but this time she realized the window grout wasn't just a symbol of the tangled up web of her life, but really a symbol of how many roads often crisscross other roads and are blocked by many obstacles. In the end, one finds a way out. We're going to get out of this for ourselves and for our families. We'll beat this, Evie said, holding on tightly to Mary's hands. All right. A voice came from the other cells. Get to sleeping, you three. It was a night guard with a thick Irish accent who was a nice face to three under lock and key. You might be sure to get some sleep. I hear there's a hearing coming up for a lot of you, the guard said. Evie and Mary separated and went to their respective cots. Matthew stayed at the edge of the cell and with his arms through the bars, looked at the guard dead in the eyes. There was something about this new guard, something that Matthew keeps staring at him. What's your name, Matthew asked. The guard said nothing and walked over to Matthew. Get to bed, the guard said. We haven't seen you before. What's your name, Matthew repeated. I said get to bed, the guard shouted and banged his nightstick at the bars right next to Matthew's arm. Matthew's eyes narrowed. His instincts were telling him something was strange about the new guard, something he could not put his finger on. As Matthew finally complied and walked back to his face, Tone caught in the smaller cell by himself, and everyone took his eyes off the new guard. The guard smiled, crudely feeling accomplished and getting Matthew to do what he wanted. He then turned and looked into the woman's cell. His strange dark green bloodshot eyes stared at Evie with a strange look. It was almost as if he were studying her every move. Evie could feel him staring. She rolled over, up to face him, peering up. Guard, yet the chill. She went up her spine. The guard, his cartoonish orange beard snagging at the corners of his mouth, stepped up to the bars. The woman stared inside, his eyes never leaving Evie, not a single second. Mary from her cot just felt uncomfortable. Please, sir, she said, hoping he'd leave. Leave them alone, Matthew said from his cot. See you in the morning, ladies, the cross guard said, white spit crusting at the edges of his thin chapped lips. The guard slowly made his way out of the cell room, still taping his nightstick on the bars as he walked out. He pulled the large, heavy door open and stepped out, locking the three in for the night. As he did, another guard was unconscious on the floor, and the guard with the deep, bloodshot green eyes suddenly transformed into Jacqueline Gray. Jacqueline had come to check on the three romantic rival. Evie Jordan, Lord Happy Jacqueline, was to see the woman Sebastian loved so much still walked away, fearing for her life. Once the new day comes, she'll never leave this place alive, Jacqueline said. The unconscious jailer on the floor she was possessing as, will she, Francis? No, she won't, she said to him again, using his name. and as the witch would do, she vanished into thin air. Fatima's house. Back at Fatima's house in town, another event was about to take place. Philip, Sebastian, and Fatima had read the now translated book of spells that Eliza's spirit had revealed. Sebastian nervously sat on the round table again. At the round table again, his wrist directly over a glass bowl from Fatima's kitchen. He turned his head as Philip grabbed Sebastian's wrist and held it up. "Now, bring it forward," Fatima said, motioning to the candle that was in the center of the table. Sebastian could feel the flame heating up his pale wrist, his veins heating the blood as it flowed through the vampire's body, and smudged of black appeared in a circle on his wrist from the flame below it. "There," Fatima said, "there is where you bite." Philip gulped at Fatima. Sebastian took a deep breath. Philip brought Sebastian's wrist back toward the bowl. The man who was tortured by the moon took a breath and knew time had come. It had been in Sebastian's wrist just as the clock coincidentally struck midnight. A stream of thick, bright red blood began to pour off Sebastian's wrist into the bowl. Sebastian growled as he felt the sting of the bite and Philip's teeth sinking into his hardened flesh. He fought ever instinct to pull away and yank himself out of Philip's lightning jaws. His own fangs came out, and his eyes turning quickly dark, as if he wanted to feed too. But Sebastian knew how much more careful with his affliction, pulled back and returned to normal, hurting no one in the room. Philip then took out the wrist of his mouth, a strong and saliva and blood tethered to his pumped lips. He turned Sebastian's wrist, and the blood filled the bowl. Sebastian then felt almost as if an invisible pressure lifting from his body as the blood came out of the room in perfect stream. And then inside the bowl, a perfect round circle, blood pooled. "Enough, Filho," Fatima said, Philip using the Portuguese word for son. "Enough," as Sebastian took back his wrist from Philip and wrapped it. Philip lifted his glass bowl by both hands and held it up to his lips, where he was about to slurp the broth of winter soup. Fatima began to read the translated book as instructed. "Return the blood from where it came, send the wild back to the tame. The heart so true, a heart so pure, let the blood be the cure," Fatima said. "Now drink it." Philip did as he instructed and tilted the glass bowl, allowing some to pour in his mouth into the corner and mouth down his neck. Fatima felt her stomach turn. She could not hold it anymore and jumped to the table and ran into the other room and vomited into a porcelain basin that sat next to the bed. "How do you feel?" Sebastian asked. "Is there hope?" When the next full moon came, Philip would only see himself in the mirror. "I don't know, the same, I guess. I don't know until the moon," Philip said before suddenly feeling something in his stomach. It felt like a crampy feeling that had begun to grow in his body. He jumped up from the chair, the pain uncomfortable. His eyes began to fill with tears, the veins in his neck bulging, and the other veins in his body stretched. What is it? Okay. Temporals in his head and his arms down his chest. He felt as if he were being choked. Philip fell to the floor, gasping for air. Sebastian rushed over and turned him face up and watched as his own blood turned his friends into a human again, not a murderous beast. "Philip," Fatima said, re-entering the room and joining the two men on the floor. "Is he okay?" "I think," Philip said in a crushed voice as it helped him up. Now what? She asked. Now we wait, Philip said, wiping his mouth from a spit of blood. No, Sebastian said. Then, as they turned to look in his direction, now to save Evie and Mary. Evie and Mary, Sebastian added. So that's the read-along. Very, 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 very good. So, again, Jacqueline is shape-shifting. She's out for vengeance for everybody. No one's safe. No one. Then you have Jonathan, who's out there, so he's an unpredictable side of this. We'll see what happens. Link to Benight Beguile is going to be in the description box. Go check it out if you haven't already.